When I went to the hospital after hearing that Rosie, my eldest son's wife, had given birth, I was met with a shocking insult. Rosie sneered at me, saying, "Since you're just a dirty farmer holding my daughter, it'll cost you $1,000 each time." Her words were a cruel jab at my occupation, implying that I was unworthy and unclean. My anger erupted. I had endured previous instances of disrespect, always striving to maintain a civil relationship because she was my son's wife, despite our differences. But this was the breaking point. Rosie's disdain for my profession, her blatant disrespect, and her mocking attitude had filled me with a profound sense of disgust. I resolved in my heart to sever all ties with her. Determined to make a statement, my husband and I left the hospital, choosing not to present the baby gift we had brought. I'm Risa, 63 years old. Since marrying my husband, a farmer, we've worked together in agriculture. We tied the knot in our mid-20s and were blessed with 2 wonderful sons. Farming is no easy task. It demands early mornings and relentless work with few days off. Despite the challenges, with support from family and neighbors, we managed to raise our boys well. Now grown, our sons have taken different paths. Our eldest, even, secured a position at a major IT company, while our younger son, Tim, works at City Hall. With the children grown, my life settled into a rhythm of work and leisurely moments like enjoying tea with neighbors. Tim married Sharon, a local classmate, a few years after starting his job, and they built a house nearby, visiting us often. Even, on the other hand, seemed entirely absorbed in his career and never spoke of marriage. As he approached 30, I grew increasingly concerned about his single status, but he appeared so content with his work that I hesitated to press him. Everything changed when Avon turned 35. He brought a woman home and introduced her, saying, "This is Rosie. We're dating and planning to get married." I was taken aback but inwardly thrilled when Avon introduced Rosie. She seemed a bit shy but charming and sweet. At 28, she was younger than Avon, though such age differences are not uncommon these days. I was delighted that Avon had found someone special, but Rosie's demeanor shifted noticeably when we discussed our work. "So, your parents are farmers?" she asked, her tone tinged with surprise. "Yes, that's right. We primarily grow leafy vegetables like arugula. The produce we harvest is really fresh and tasty. We just picked some this morning. Please take some with you. I'd love for you to try them." Rosie's smile faded into a look of discomfort. I wasn't sure if I had said something wrong, but before I could dwell on it, Avon smoothly changed the subject. As Avon and Rosie were preparing to leave, the tension lingered, leaving me with an uneasy feeling. "Oh, don't forget to take the vegetables," I said as I handed them to Rosie. She looked at them with a clear expression of disgust and muttered, "Dirty." "What?" I was taken aback. "They're covered in soil because they've just been harvested. They're in a plastic bag so they won't soil your car. Just wash them well before cooking." "I don't even want to eat such dirty vegetables." Her reaction left me in shock. "It's not that dirty, it's just a bit of soil. Why does it have to be such a big deal? Is farming considered so unclean? You don't have to go that far. I thought you were marrying Avon for his job and income, not judging his family's work. I didn't realize you'd be so dismissive." As I was about to respond to her insulting remarks about farming, Avon, who had been getting the car from the garage, walked over. "What's going on?" Avon asked, noticing the tension. "Rosie was." I began to explain. "It's nothing, Avon. Please just take these vegetables," I interjected, trying to defuse the situation. "They're offering," Rosie cut in loudly. Avon, still looking confused, took the vegetables from my hand. "Thanks, Mom. I'll call you later about the wedding and everything," he said before heading back to the car. Rosie followed him, but as soon as Avon wasn't looking, she leaned in close to me. "I have no intention of dealing with a farmer mother-in-law like you," Rosie hissed in a low voice meant only for my ears. I was stunned. It was shocking to hear that Avon's partner judged and insulted people based on their occupation. I began to worry about the future of their marriage. After that day, Avon was too busy with work to keep in touch. I wanted to discuss Rosie with him but never had the chance, leaving me with lingering concerns. Eventually, Avon married Rosie. I questioned whether she was the right choice, but Avon seemed so infatuated that my concerns likely went unheard. Despite our differences, I tried to set aside my worries as long as Avon was happy. From then on, I avoided interacting with Rosie as much as possible. 2 months after Avon's wedding, we planned a family gathering for a meal. I reached out to my sons, but Avon couldn't make it because of a business trip. Instead, Rosie would be coming alone. Rosie? Is she coming by herself? I asked, concerned. Yes, it's not far, and she said she'd be fine taking a taxi. As the wife of our eldest son, she should attend, don't you think, if she's comfortable with it? Despite this reassurance, I was anxious that she might not show up, as she had been avoiding our home. My concerns were confirmed when, on the morning of the event, I received a call from Rosie. I'm not feeling well today, so I can't make it. I see. Since Evan's away on his business trip, are you sure you'll be okay on your own? Think I'll feel better with some rest, so don't worry. I'm going to sleep now, so I'll hang up, Rosie said, ending the call abruptly. Her brusque manner left me a bit irritated, though I understood that she was unwell. Still, I couldn't dwell on it for long as I needed to focus on preparing the meal. Tim's wife, Sharon, graciously helped out, and we managed the preparations and cleanup efficiently. Sharon, thank you for your help, as always, I said. It's no problem at all. Is there anything else you need? No, everything is set. Oh, I received a cake. Would you like some before you leave? Sure, I'd love some, Sharon replied. And what about you, Tim? Really? That sounds great, Tim responded, pleased with the offer. Tim nodded happily as I began preparing the cake and coffee. Just then, I received a call from a relative who had joined us earlier. How? Is something wrong? I asked. No, nothing's wrong. I was out shopping and saw someone who looks just like Rosie. She's having a good time with an unfamiliar man. I'll send you a picture. Could you take a look? After hanging up, the relative sent the photo. What's this? What's going on? I asked as I looked at the image. Wow, that does look like Rosie. I thought she was feeling unwell. That's what I heard, the relative replied. The photo clearly showed Rosie walking arm in arm with an unfamiliar man and looking anything but unwell. The possibility of cheating crossed my mind, but with just this evidence, we couldn't be certain. I was too stunned to speak. The lie about her illness was troubling enough, but the thought of her possibly cheating on Evan was overwhelming. Confronting her about it might lead to evasive explanations, and I was at a loss for how to tell Evan, who was eagerly looking forward to their wedding, that he might be deceived. Yes, you're right. Although they were legally married, the wedding ceremony was still 4 months away. Evan, despite his busy schedule, was dedicated to planning a beautiful celebration for Rosie. I couldn't bring myself to tell Evan that he might be cheated on, especially without solid evidence. Tim's comment left us all sighing in frustration. About 6 months later, Rosie gave birth to a child. Her pregnancy had come to light shortly after the suspicions of infidelity surfaced. Despite my lingering doubts about her fidelity, I was genuinely thrilled about the arrival of my first grandchild. When we heard the news, my husband and I went to the hospital. In the room, Rosie was holding the newborn. Congratulations on the birth. How are you feeling now? I asked. Still a bit tough, but better than I expected, Rosie replied. I'm glad to hear that. Is Evan at work? He was here until just a moment ago, but he left after getting a work call, Rosie said, gently stroking the baby. She's adorable. May I hold her? At my request, Rosie's expression soared. What? No, absolutely not. Don't touch her. Why would you say that? I asked, taken aback. Because it's dirty. Farmers always have dirt under their nails, don't they? I can't let such hands touch my daughter. She looked at me and my husband with disdain. If you really want to hold her, it'll cost you. Mother-in-law, you're dirty, so holding my daughter costs $1,000 each time. Given your background as farmers, you probably don't have that kind of money. I was overcome with anger as Rosie laughed mockingly. Despite my efforts to treat her with respect as my son's wife, even though we didn't get along, I had reached my breaking point. Rosie's contempt for people's occupations and her insulting remarks had filled me with disgust. I resolved in my heart that I would have nothing more to do with her. Then I'll give up, I said, and with that, I left the hospital without leaving the baby gift. Half a year later, Tim and his wife welcomed a long-awaited grandchild, a charming baby boy who was so adorable that everything he did seemed precious. As I was focusing on preparing for my grandson, Rosie suddenly arrived at our house. Hey, is it true that you bought Sharon a stroller and baby clothes? She demanded, her voice full of anger. I sighed. What's this about? Yes, we bought Sharon a stroller and clothes. Is there a problem with that? I asked. Why buy gifts only for Sharon? You never buy anything for my daughter, Rosie retorted. That's because you called me dirty, I replied. I figured you wouldn't want anything from someone you deemed unclean. Rosie's face twisted in frustration. Well, if I could get presents, it's a different story. I thought it was pointless to be nice since you're poor, but if you're giving such nice things, maybe it should have been more cordial. With a sigh, she continued, I'm surprised you could afford such a nice stroller on a farmer's income. It's a popular brand, even among celebrities, right? It was expensive, but it's lightweight and easy to maneuver, so I thought it was a good choice. And just so you know, despite what you say about being poor, we earn about $70,000 a year. There's no way a farmer can earn that much, Rosie said dismissively. I sighed again, frustrated with her ignorance. Our farm is large and efficient, with machinery that helps us harvest a substantial amount of vegetables. The quality of our produce allows us to sell at a higher price. We have contracts with restaurants across the country and sell directly, ensuring a stable income with no surplus. You clearly don't understand farming, yet you make such unfounded claims. I have no intention of continuing any association with you, so please leave. But it's unfair that you only bought gifts for Sharon. You didn't even give me a baby present, Rosie protested. I'm sorry, but I won't give a gift to someone who calls me dirty. We always give gifts to Sharon as a token of our appreciation for her help. She actively participates in family gatherings, assists with household chores, and even helps me with technology, which I'm not great with. It's our way of showing gratitude for her constant support. There's no reason to give gifts to someone like Rosie, who does nothing but make rude comments. Still dissatisfied, Rosie continued to complain loudly outside our house. As her ruckus started to attract unwanted attention from the neighbors, Even emerged from the house. What's going on here? He asked, clearly annoyed. What? Why is Even here? I thought you were at work, Rosie said, surprised. I took the day off. I needed to ask something, Even replied. Rosie gaped at his unexpected arrival. Evan then turned to her and asked, Why are you insulting my mother and demanding gifts? How can you say such things? It's not like that, Rosie stammered. Caught off guard in front of Even, who she had always tried to impress, Rosie began to panic. I just told her to stop because she tried to touch the baby with dirty hands. Then she got angry and started being mean to me. That's terrible, don't you think? You don't need to lie anymore. I can't trust you now, Rosie, Even said firmly. Why do you trust Mom over me? Rosie demanded. Because, Rosie, you've lied multiple times. You said you were too sick to attend the family gathering, but you were out having fun, weren't you? And then you told me you attended the gathering. Rosie shot me a furious glare in response to Even's accusations. Unfortunately, it wasn't me who revealed this to him. A relative who saw Rosie out shopping had informed Even. The same relative who sent me the photo had only mentioned that Rosie was out and about without revealing the details about the man. Evan's trust in Rosie diminished upon learning that she had lied. I've heard everything from Mom, Even continued. You've shown a lot of disrespect just because we're farmers. That's because farming is a job for people at the bottom of the social ladder, Rosie retorted. I never thought anyone decent would be involved in it. You insulted Mom and Dad based on your own prejudices without even knowing them. I'm truly disappointed in you, Rosie. I don't want to see you anymore, so please leave, Even said coldly. Rosie's face went pale at his words. Leave? You mean from the apartment? Yes, I can't live with you any longer. Please pack your things and go. The divorce papers will be sent through a lawyer. I'm sorry for what I said to your mother, but a divorce just for that seems excessive, Rosie protested. She clung to Even, tears welling in her eyes. It's not just about that, is it? Even's voice was colder and firmer than I had ever heard. You recognize the man in this photo, don't you? He held up the photo, showing Rosie with an unfamiliar man, the same person from the photo that had been sent by a relative on the day of the family gathering. Why do you have this? Rosie asked, her voice trembling. Actually, I received messages from various people saying they saw you being close with an unknown man, relatives and neighbors, Even explained. Why would they talk about me? Rosie asked, bewildered. People in the countryside love to gossip. Everyone was concerned that Even might be cheated on and quickly informed me. In small communities, news travels fast, and seeing Rosie with an unfamiliar man raised suspicions. I was advised to look into it. Rosie, I hired a detective, and they found a strong indication of infidelity. Rosie, realizing she couldn't escape the situation, glared at me with intense anger. This is why I hate the countryside. Cheating. And what about it? Evan asked. It's Evan's fault for neglecting me. I was lonely, Rosie snapped. If you were lonely, you should have told me directly, Evan responded. I thought it would be a bother, but I promise I won't cheat again. Please forgive me, Rosie pleaded, tears streaming down her face. Despite her distress, Evan's expression remained stern. You said you were lonely because I was always working, but this report shows you were involved with someone even before our marriage. What's that about? Are you still lying to deceive me? Evan asked. That's a lie. It's a false report, Rosie insisted. The report indicates you've been in a relationship with someone since college. You've broken up and gotten back together several times. We even know his name, so maybe it's time to stop lying, Evan said. Rosie's face went pale, and she began to tremble. From the photos, it looks like you've been buying quite expensive items. I didn't realize you were using my money for this. It was just impulse buying due to stress. Even so, you've spent a lot of money on brand name products, money I worked hard to earn. And on top of that, you've been unfaithful. I can't trust you anymore, Evan said firmly. Please, anything but divorce, Rosie begged, tears streaming down her face. Our daughter is still so young. I can't survive on my own if we divorce. Rosie clung to Evan, sobbing. I thought if she was going to act this way, she should have never cheated in the first place. It was too late for regrets now. I'm sorry, but my decision is final, Evan said. I'll be filing for divorce and seeking compensation for your infidelity. But our daughter is still so young, and I can't work. How will I manage to pay any compensation? Rosie pleaded. That's not my concern, Evan replied coldly. You betrayed me, so it's only fair that you face the consequences. I'll consult with a lawyer and let you know the amount later. Rosie seemed to realize that Evan was resolute. She stood up, her demeanor shifting to one of anger. You've been saying whatever you want. Don't you have a heart? If you're talking about compensation and divorce, then you need to pay child support. Can you come up with $100,000 right now for her upbringing until she turns 20? If you can't, I won't agree to the divorce. Rosie said this defiantly. Men have it easy. Even if you decide to leave me, you don't have to raise the child. At least fulfill your role as a father by paying child support. She likely thought this would put Evan in a difficult position. Rosie crossed her arms with a triumphant look, but Evan just snorted. Fine, I'll pay, but only if the child is actually mine. What do you mean? Rosie's face tensed immediately. I had noticed something unsettling since I first saw my granddaughter. As she grew, it became more apparent. She didn't resemble either Evan or Rosie. Today, after seeing the child again, I noticed her lighter pigmentation and droopy, large eyes. They seemed to resemble the man Rosie was seen with, not Evan. Seeing the face of the man Rosie cheated with, I became certain that the child looks like him. If Rosie has been involved with him since before our marriage, it's possible the child could be his. That's not true. She is your child, Evan, Rosie insisted. Then let's do a test to clarify things, Evan replied. Wait, there's no need for that, Rosie said, her desperation evident. Despite her pleas, no one was convinced. We need to settle this, Evan said firmly. If the test confirms she's my child, I'll pay $100,000 in child support as part of the divorce. If she isn't, I won't pay a dime. That's outrageous. You can't test a newborn baby, Rosie protested. It's possible. I know someone who has conducted such tests, Evan said, showing he was serious. Rosie's face turned pale, and she held her head in her hands. Regardless of the results, I'm proceeding with the divorce. Please leave the house today, Evan said. Wait, please, just listen one more time, Rosie pleaded, grabbing my hand. Mother-in-law, you love your granddaughter, don't you? I'll let you hold her as much as you want. Just forgive me. Rosie clung to me, but I had no intention of forgiving her after all the disrespect she had shown. It doesn't matter anymore. I don't need to hold her. Please stay out of our lives. How can you say that? Rosie cried out, but Evan ignored her pleas and closed the front door. For a while, the sound of Rosie pounding on the door and shouting filled the air. But she eventually left when neighbors began to gather. With Rosie successfully removed from our lives, I was relieved to cut ties with her as well. Later, a DNA test confirmed that the child was not Evan's. As a result, Rosie was not entitled to child support and instead faced the financial burden of paying compensation. Having been ousted from the house, Rosie turned to the man she had cheated with for help. However, he abandoned her, unwilling to care for the child. With no other options, Rosie returned to her parents' home in Philadelphia, a remote area even more isolated than where we lived. The news of her return spread quickly in the rural community, including details of her infidelity and abandonment. She now seems to be living a quiet, uncomfortable life. After the divorce, Evan threw himself into his work and earned a promotion. With no personal expenses, he generously took my husband and me on a trip, citing his newfound financial freedom. Given Evan's family-oriented nature, I believe you will make a wonderful husband and father in the future. I genuinely hope for beautiful new beginnings for